I ended up throwing
having
like
any
2 innings.
transactional
Just
items.
mostly
All
all
that
that
matters is like really getting better in the now.
Okay, let's go. Welcome to Surviving Youth Sports Podcast, where we dive into real stories behind the wins, the losses, and the lessons that come with raising, coaching, and being young athletes. Now let's get into it. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Surviving Youth Sports. And today we have Matt Dumouchelle, and I got the name right because I just said it I got it about 5 times. Is surviving just like the rest of us. Youth sport parent, has been all over the radio, and is an advocate for youth sports in his own way. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Hey, Brad, thanks so much for having me. Great job with the last name. Off to a fantastic start. We're doing great here.
And being from radio, I know because obviously played college minor league baseball. If they're like before the game, they're coming around like, oh man, God, hey, how do you say, Lewandowski, like, because you want to get it right. You want to get it right.
That's all your credibility there, right there, right? Day one in radio school, we were always told if you come across a bad last name, as an example, just say it once and keep going. Because if you go back and try to correct it, and that's going to make it even worse. But ultimately, that's the end of the day. You show up. I was fortunate after some of my radio career, I got to do some color commentary and play-by-play and stuff in the Ontario Hockey League. And you'd show up, you'd pull up the roster before the game just to do a little bit of research and stuff. And you would hope number 26, who may have been from the Czech Republic that had 17 letters in his last name and 3 of them were vowels, you would pray that he was a scratch. So you'd only have to say it once and just keep going. And I wouldn't have to reference it again.
I can imagine. The European, Eastern European names. God, if you're on broadcast, like, oh no, man. God, am I going to get this one right?
Yeah, it was crazy, and there was always the little ones. When I was working with the Leamington Flyers in the Ontario Junior Hockey League, like I did some play-by-play with them, but I was the assistant GM, so we had a few more things to take care of during the games and stuff. But we had 2 sets of brothers at one point in the team, so it's not just McPherson to McPherson, it's the first name, last name, first name, last name.
Man.
And hockey is not a slow sport. So you're trying to jam in these names as quickly as you can. And you end up just calling them by their first name, like you're buddies with them, because it's a lot easier
you have
to get it reeled in.
Well, and it's funny, I would go right into that. I can barely skate. I mean, it's really pathetic, especially I was telling you right before we got on, I played all over BC. I played in Saskatoon. I played in Quebec City. One of my best friends lives in Guelph, Ontario. Like, I have been all over the country. And man, I never played hockey. I don't know if I've ever even, maybe I hit a puck once. I love going to hockey matches.
Yeah.
It's because, man, it is just, I marvel at how fast they are. And I've gotten the kids to go to a couple. My wife and I, anniversary this past year, went to the Canucks. She was his last game. And so we're like, we're in it. And I think the crazy part, we used to live in Omaha. We went to Omaha, Nebraska, who is one of the better college hockey teams.
Yes.
Went to some matches. And I'd love your take on this from a youth perspective all the way up. They were in quicksand compared to the NHL guys. I mean, they are so much slower. And I was like, wow, the difference is massive in terms of how quickly they get up and down the ice. Tell me about youth hockey. Tell me about junior hockey, man, because I am so interested in hearing about it.
Yeah. Well, in just on that topic alone, you're 100%. Like, again, I worked with the Leamington Flyers as assistant GM. That was junior A hockey. And we had kids, we had 9 kids in our program in 6 years commit to D1 schools. We had a kid get drafted right into the NHL from our program. So like we're a upper echelon franchise in that league and get a lot of good players that come through. And the separators at that age, and this is 16 to 20, are noticeable for sure. But it is that next step that's really wild. Like where I am in Windsor, Ontario, like we're blessed to be around everything. I mean, Detroit is 15, 20 minutes away, depending on the mood of the border guard. So we get to go over to Red Wings games, Tigers games, whenever you want. University of Michigan's 45 minutes away, so you can go see U of M football or hockey at Yost or something like that. And that's it. I'll take my little guy. He's 8 years old. We'll go to a couple of Red Wing games a year, and he likes to go down right to the glass during warm up and watch them buzz around and stuff. And they're putting in, they're getting their bodies loose. This isn't full speed stuff. Even then you can tell, like, this is not normal speed. Everything is 100%. And I think there was a big wake up for a lot of people that maybe aren't hockey fans in general in the Olympics, who turned into the Olympic Games, saw that gold medal game, specifically Canada, the US. Like, if you watch that match and this wasn't something that piqued your interest, at least, we'll never get you on board with hockey, because that's about as good as it gets. And you're right. It feels 10 times faster when you're there than it is when you're watching it in person.
It is, and there's obviously major leagues down to college baseball. The gap is huge, but I think in the sport, the speed, there's still guys that throw 98 miles an hour in college.
Yeah.
There's still guys that throw 98 MLB. Man, those guys would just get blown out of the water by the NHL or even we used to have the Tacoma Rockets where I was from. Yep. Even I'm not saying they're skilled with the puck or any. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, man, they fly, and the gap is just the Grand Canyon. I mean, it really was like, oh my gosh.
It is really fast, and you see that as, like, hockey is the only sport out there where you're doing two things at once all the time. Like, your feet are always moving, and they're on a little blade of metal on a frozen pond, compared to just running on a field, running on a court, running on wherever you might be. So there's always those two different elements. But I even see that when we turn it to youth sports with my little guy. He played house league this past year. He's 8 years old. He'll be 9 at the end of May. The kids that are considered excellent, or the ones that raise eyebrows, are just the faster ones. A lot of youth hockey turns into just being a breakaway contest, because each team normally has one or two kids that maybe have better hands or are better skaters at that age. And when you talk about separators, like being able to skate at 8 years old compared to kids that maybe can't or are learning and stuff, like, you want to talk about putting yourself in front of the pack. If you can skate at that age, it's completely different game. The hard part of that, and again, tying it into youth sports and keeping everybody focused and calm when they're watching these things from a parent perspective, coaching perspective, whatever it is again, we have to take what we're seeing into perspective. An 8-year-old who's a really good skater is not guaranteeing anything for that kid when he's 18 or 26 or whatever the case may be. Everybody will always catch up at some point. And when we look at difference makers from a junior hockey level or different makers from an NHL level, the difference between an elite player and a middle of the road player is really not that much. But I guess it's the intricacies, right? Or it's the non-negotiables that those players put themselves in to try to elevate their game that separate them when we're talking about that level.
Youth hockey, how much of a role is, and obvious it's a role, but it's different in every sport. Is it because, man, I tell you, in baseball, the gap is just, because you cannot have any fundamentals in baseball. It's all strength, and you're going to dominate. Is it the same way in hockey? Because if you're slow and you're big, like, does that? So tell me. I mean, it's just.
It lasts for a little bit. The biggest differentiator or difference maker with hockey, specifically when you're getting to a particular age, like in Ontario where we are, we introduce body checking at 13. So anytime before that, you're not really playing hockey. It's the Mike Tyson quote, right? Like, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Like, you can go up the boards and some guy can't throw you into the wall. It's a very different type of game you're playing until you're trying to go up the boards, and that guy now can put his entire body into you and try to knock you on your butt, right? So that the size, of course, is always plays a little bit different. People like looking at trends or for sizing somebody that projects to be a decent size, 6'2", 6'4", whatever that looks like, can certainly be an advantage. And teams in general are willing to hold on to those kind of players a little bit longer than others just because of that size. But yeah, like what separates the kids more or less than age and body size at that point is really when body checking is starting to get introduced.
Which my wife, being a physician, sports med, I kind of actually love hearing that. I mean, a 9-year-old doesn't need to get checked into the boards.
Hmm.
Like, and that's why some of the tackle football stuff too. It's like they don't even know how to
Yeah.
properly do anything
No,
yet.
and
And
I think that's part of why Canada or Hockey Canada or whoever looks at it that way is it's not just now we can throw our bodies around because we're better controlled on the ice. It's doing it safely, doing it properly. As much as that year before, at the end of the year, a lot of coaches spend time on preparing them for body checking, and it's not throwing the check, it's taking the check. How can you be against the boards, know somebody's coming, and still make a play, but safely put yourself in a position that you're not going to get blindsided and head first into the boards. Your positioning against the wall is proper, that somebody comes and hits you, they're going to knock you in, but they're not throwing your body into the glass, right? So as much as I think that age plays a lot into a body type and growth and all of that too, but ultimately that's pretty good age for kids to start understanding what impact can look like from a delivery and receiving perception. So they do a lot of good work around that and preparing kids for that type of hockey, because that more than anything changes the game that you're playing.
yeah, well, which that makes me really happy because we're putting development safety over winning.
Hmm.
Because there's plenty of people that would take advantage of that and just go get the biggest kids at 11 to go try and win.
For sure.
So you help contribute to a hockey site.
Mhm.
I want to hear a little bit about that. And in that, I kind of want to hear, because it sounds like we're doing some things right in hockey, which I love to hear. What are we getting wrong?
Mhm. Sure.
Give me both sides.
Sure. So from the coachessite.com is the site that I contribute and write for. So I've been writing now with them for 3 years, and my feature on that show on that site is called Hockey Factories. So what I've done so far is worked with 15 different organizations from across the world. We've done a couple in Sweden, Finland, Germany, Latvia, Switzerland, North America, of course. And it's twofold, really. What we're trying to do, or the genesis of it was, what are these clubs doing that separate them, not just in their city, but in their country, in their continent, and globally. A Frölunda in Sweden is like the Yankees of hockey. Like that's the king. Like what are they doing that separates them from all of these other clubs around the world? And even more valuable, what are they doing that I can do with my club, that the board that I sit on in Windsor, Ontario, right? Big city, small city, triple A center, single A center. Like what are we able to learn from these clubs that we can do at home without cost, without extreme situations, right? What we're doing wrong, I hate to burst your bubble, we're doing quite a few things wrong
We
in
all are.
hockey,
Every
in
sport is, trust me.
in general. And I think some of the work that I do and getting able to take what I've learned and use that to help organizations build stronger programs, stronger systems that don't rely on, like you said, taking the best 11-year-olds and going to win a banner. How are we communicating and creating these environments, ultimately at the end of the day, to create the best youth sports experience for every kid that's involved in your program? We are always, and I say this as we, Canada in general, and the United States to an extent as well, just not a ton of experience to speak on it. But in Canada, we are always trying to find the next great hockey player and speed them up as quick as we can. there's the long-term development structure of an organization, or what that looks like from a U8 to a U18, is not to say non-existent, but it's most organizations that I've run into run that as 8 or 9 different separate teams as opposed to one organization. So the ones that are doing it right will teach at U8. They'll explain to their coaches that are coaching at that age group, here's our mandate for you. Here's your guardrails. This year, we want to focus on skating. So at the end of the year, how you get them there is up to you. You're the coach. You can practice plan, you can do all of those things. But at the end of the year, you're going to be evaluated on how strong are these kids skating forwards? How strong are these kids skating backwards? And are all of these kids signing up to play hockey here again next year? That is
Bingo.
there's your 3 mandates for that year. Because at U8, U9, U10, keep going, none of this matters. Like, truly, none of this matters, in the sense that, nobody's going on Elite Prospects to find out what your stats were when you were 11 years old, if you're about to get drafted when you're 16. So the other part of that organizations fail to do in supporting their coaches for that is to give them a vision of what this organization looks like. As a U9 coach, you should know what's being taught at U8, and you should know what's being taught at U10, so that you can add to what you're building in creating this complete player. When I say, if you're fast at U9, which is my little guy's league, like, you're a separator now. The first thing we want to do here is to call that kid elite. Or here's another program. Here's a travel program. Now you want to take travel instead of house league. We want you in a travel program because you're the best 9-year-old out there. In Europe, they take a much slower development pathway. They have more of a runway to do it, but what they will work on is, Latvia as an example. HS Riga was a program that I worked on. The first cuts that they make to their teams is at 14 years old. Other than that, everybody plays for as
Good.
long as possible because they don't have another player coming. Canada and the US and some of these other bigger countries have the benefit of, if I cut a kid at U10, I can find another kid by walking outside and looking down the street, and I can find a hockey player. You're never running out of kids that are playing hockey. In a country like Latvia or a country like Germany, where hockey might be the 5th or 6th most popular sport, you have no choice. You have to develop everybody, because you don't know if that 10-year-old who's not great on his feet is going to grow into a 15-year-old that can play, that has an opportunity to play on a first team or something like that, right? So one of the first things that I talk about when I work with different organizations and such is to build out what that model looks like, so that your parents understand, your coaches understand what needs to be delivered. You have evaluation points to see, is this working? Is this not working? And then you're giving these kids, again, everybody's getting the best experience they possibly can, as opposed to separating a group of elite kids where 90% of the kids in your program are house league kids, but
Correct.
you put a lot of extra effort, coaching, extra ice, all of that into the 10% of kids that, the numbers, I'm sure, read just like anybody else. None of these kids are going to be NHL players mathematically. It's 0.1%, right? So what are we delivering to everybody, as opposed to trying to segregate and move kids on to elite as fast as they can?
And I think there's a balance, right? There's some 12-year-olds that, hey man, if you want to go have a different challenge, go have a different challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm totally good with it. If you want to play in a house league or little league for baseball here, do it. Like, and by the way, like, it's funny. I'm going to go back to one thing you said. We're trying to find the next Sidney Crosby.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me tell you something about Sidney Crosby. He could play for me. I know nothing about hockey. Maybe he's not as good as he is now. He's still going to be an NHL player, guys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I hate to tell you that. He can play for me. And I'd be like, oh, we have to switch line shift. Like,
Yeah,
I wouldn't even know what the hell is going on, but that kid's so good, it's not going to matter.
for sure.
And by the way, I could take a baseball guy who, is 15 and is loose and lanky and effortless and throws 90 miles an hour and he's going to throw, mid to upper 90s. He can go play for you. He's going to be fine.
Yeah,
Like, he's going
yeah.
to be fine.
No, it's true.
Like, so I do think that there's times where you do start to separate the elite from the house league, but
Mhm.
let's make sure we're doing it at the right times. Like,
Right.
you just said it. At 9, guys, man, if you're a great player, dude, that's awesome. And you're like dominant, and that's so cool. And I'm going to champion that because I think
Mhm.
it's great. But I'm also not going to put any future stock into it.
Right. And that's where we can get lost real quick as parents. Of course, all parents, we genuinely want what's best for our kids. Where sports plays into this has changed dramatically in comparison to anything else. I'm not going to, my kid brings home a 20 out of 20 on his math test. I'm not trying to fast forward him to become a scientist, right? Like, I'm not trying to. My daughter shows a real interest in history. Well, it's she's not about to go get a degree somewhere. She's 11, right? It's funny getting the opportunity with Leamington, who I'd worked for. Like, we're allowed 2 16-year-olds on our roster, and then the rest are 17 to 20. So in doing these conversations and presentations and things like that, like, you could be the best 13-year-old on the planet. I can't take you. Like, you need to now just get the best coaching you can, the best experience, play a ton, get a ton of reps, love what you're doing, and then the time will come when you can make that next step. But we're not in a rush to try to do this where I think the idea of return on investment, and listen, I understand it
Huh,
as a parent more than anything else. It's
please.
expensive to do this, man. Like, it
Yeah.
is expensive to play hockey in Canada, and we're adding on travel, and now we've got 2 or 3 out of town tournaments where we're spending money at hotels, and they sure as heck aren't giving gas away these days. So I got to drive
That's
up
true.
I got to drive up the 401 3 hours to spend a weekend there at my time and his time to play 2 or 3 games, because we're all chasing this idea of trying to get it to feel like we're as elite as possible as
Mhm.
soon as possible. When, to your point, there's kids that get it, and there's kids that don't need all the craziness around them. They're just going to be good.
Yeah.
Right.
And
The first one we did for Hockey Factories was Shattuck St. Mary's. Sidney Crosby went there, Jonathan Taves, Nathan McKinnon, you name it. They probably have some connection there. Their coach, Tom Ward, who's U18, he always says his number one job is to not screw it up. Because if that kid goes here, if he plays AAA, if he plays in the USHL, he's going to be an elite player. And you just see that, right? But for 99.9999% of the other kids, how are we creating an experience for them that not only are they learning, are they developing as a player, but they're taking away what sports gives you at my age, at your age, the ability to work as a team, the ability to handle yourself, win or lose, how to be focused, how to invest more time and energy into something. All of those things are things that help me at my job today, that I learned being around sports, and nothing else can teach that. So we're very quick to want to be the ones that say, we got 25 people that get out of our program every year that get drafted, or these kids moved on, or this. Sure, but there's 500, 600 kids that are under your
Mhm.
umbrella right now that just want to enjoy playing hockey or whatever sport it is.
Absolutely. That's unequivocal. And I think that, and I say this as a broken record, experiences and relationships are all we have.
Mhm.
That's it. And if you're lucky enough and you get some money in your bank account and you're set for life, man, congratulations. Like, good
Yeah.
for you. That's awesome. But that's not, it's experiences and relationships, becoming fans of the sport, like, is part of your experience. But we get told these things as parents, and it's supposed to be this way. And man, even if you're great in Windsor, God, it's a big world out there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I mean, go play that kid from Latvia. Go play the
Mhm.
kid from Germany. Like, it's a massive world out there. And I think we lose that a little bit with some of the stuff going on. And you brought up one more thing that I want to touch on because I want your opinion, because you obviously do a lot of counseling and mentoring in the youth sports department as well. You take Sidney Crosby, 13 years old. One of the best things that you can do with that kid, or even the kids that are a tier below that are going to be really good, that might play minor league hockey or really high level college hockey, go let them fail.
Yeah.
Because no matter what, Sidney Crosby's failed plenty. Like, sorry to bring this up, like, because my Canadian friends are like, we
I know where this is going.
Yeah, we failed as a country. Like, you're gonna fail, whether it's as an individual, as a team, and it's okay to let them fail. I have some kids that are pretty good at some sports. Man, I do not want them to be the best player on their teams. I want them to go fail.
Right.
It doesn't mean to get destroyed, but like, man, like, you have to fail to learn, and that's part of the experience. Are you gonna quit when it's your job if you fail? Hell no, you're gonna have to go figure it out.
Yeah, we all have bad days, kids. Like that's just it. And I'd love to storm out and close my laptop sometimes at work and say, oh, I'm never coming back here again. But guess where I am at 9 a.m. the next day, right? That's just not the way it works. My son is I always joke that he doesn't like his dad very much because he wants to be a goalie. So he's a goalie. He had an opportunity last season to play a year up in a travel setting as a goalie, never having played full-time as a goalie. So he was 7 years old playing U9 at the time.
Yeah.
And they said, listen, we'd love to have him. He's a good kid, good energy. The other kids love being around him. If he wants to play, he's more than welcome. So I pulled him aside and said, listen, pal, if you want to do this, let me tell you something first and foremost, as your father who loves you more than anybody. You are going to get lit up if you do this. This is not going to go well.
Great. Yeah.
But if you can stick it out, you're going to get more shots. You're going to get to travel around. You're going to get to see what it's like, take the whole thing in. I speak about how important it is that we include house league and travel and all of those things. My son's now done both. The first year I wanted him to play travel because I want him to see the lights. I want him to get excited about it. I want him we're going the car ride up on the trip. Like, it's fun. There's a lot of excitement around that, right? And I tell him, buddy, like, you're going to lose 7-0. There's no question about it. We're going to go to a tournament in Toronto, and God bless you, you're going to get pumped because some of these kids in Toronto have skating coaches and shooting coaches and all that at 8, 9 years old. It's crazy, but you're going to learn so much if you just stick with it. It's going to be worth it. He played it out for the year. It went the way that we thought. He got so much better from one year to the next. He wants to play it again next year, so he'll be trying out for that next year. But 100%. I want him to experience this. I don't want him to go in blind as a parent. I'm not going to set him up and say, oh, you're going to dominate, and then go in there, the first 5 shots go in, and he's looking at me like, hey, what the hell are you talking about? But I want him to know what a difficult situation looks like and try to work backwards through that in his head, because at 8 years old, at 18, at 28, that's an incredibly valuable tool to have as a person, not just an athlete.
Well, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Got an 8-year-old, plays 10U baseball, and he plays Little League, so house, Little League, same thing. And I would imagine your son physically is able to do it, because it's not just skill. Like, you have to be physical enough to play. For sure.
We're never going to put the kid in a position where he's going to get hurt.
Correct.
With kids launching pucks or fastballs or whatever it is at him.
Yeah.
For sure.
And so he started this year, and he got 12 or 13 kids, and it's 9th, I'll say. And I'm like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
But he's gotten, like, they've only played in a couple tournaments. He's like 6 for 10, 12.
Okay.
5 for 9, something like that.
Yeah.
So having a ton of success. And he's like, when am I going to move up in the lineup? I'm like, and I told the coach, because I actually, this is the only one I don't coach right now.
Sure.
Because he's got a great guy who's, it's just a perfect situation because I can't be everywhere. But I go, do not move him up too much. Because if he's hitting third or fourth, those guys are seeing different pitches. Like, he's going to get blown up. And in baseball, you cannot get blown up too much because,
Right.
man, you just fail. You're going to be in trouble. So I'm like, buddy, you're doing perfect. And honestly, like, we need to work on your defense because you're not playing a lot in the field because you're not catching the balls when they're hitting to the outfield, which is hard to do anyways. But like, let's work on this.
Right.
Like, you're doing great hitting because you've worked at it. So I love that. And like, he's still going to be 9U eligible next year, not 10U, which he's playing right now, 9U. And I'm like, why would I put him on a 9U team? Like, he's 85 pounds today. And I'm not trying to we're not trying to put our kids on a pedestal.
Sure.
But what we're saying is that more important than being a great 9U player is putting them in a situation where they have enough success to love the sport and want to get better, and enough failure to go, man, A, is this for me? B, like, what do I need to do to get better? Have that desire to be good. And parents, it's good to do that with the right kid. There's other kids. So tell me about your other kids. I can't do that with all my kids for every sport. It wouldn't work. They'd get smoked and they wouldn't want to play.
No, for sure. For sure.
You coach soccer. Tell me about, let's move to another kid just like I do.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, soccer for me is something that I don't know the rules. I don't play. I know that there's 7 against 7 and the net's way too big, but that's my experience with soccer. But I love being around my kids and I love coaching and getting to be kind of part of that experience. And you do, for sure. Like, they do a great job of putting out practice plans and stuff. So I've got a general idea of what I'm doing and where players are going to play and things like that. But for sure, I had just this past summer a girl who was excellent. Like, she was the best player in our age group, and there's no doubt about it. So, kind of to your point, what did we do? How do you, as a coach, elevate the players that are at the bottom of the skill level, but not bore the kid that's at the top? Right? Where do you find that in the middle? She was 10 at the time. It's too young, in my opinion, to start building, like, why don't you coach some of the other kids and as a leader type thing, as a player, let her play, let her have fun. She'll get that time when that time comes. So how do you keep her engaged, but also not challenging the other kids too much? Exactly like you said, you do a great job at ball handling. Next game, move the ball. Let's just try this, because the team can't depend on you to score every single goal. That's not fair to anybody, yourself included. But what if the other team obviously knows, okay, we're going to guard her, we're going to play tough on her, whatever it is. What if in this game, all you did was pass? Just move the ball. Talk to your mom and dad before the game so that she understands, hey, this is why she's doing this. We're just getting her to test something out, develop a different skill, and it wasn't great. And so we do it again and we do it again. Now, through osmosis, other kids are seeing the best player on the team's moving the ball. I got 3 girls around me. Maybe I should try to move the ball. They're getting more touches. She's working on something that's challenging her. And at the end of the game, win or lose, everybody takes something away from that, right? So like we said, when we're talking about creating just great experiences for all the kids that are involved on your team, everybody ultimately pays the same amount for registration. At their age, again, we're not talking about the next superstar that's not going to be shooting up the scales. We just want to create an environment where they feel safe to make mistakes. They're encouraged to make mistakes, they're having fun, and they want to come back for the next game and the next practice. So much of our responsibility as coaches and parents is only that, where parents try to jump into coaching, coaches try to jump into parenting, nobody's talking to each other, and the kid's left in the middle saying, well, my parent says my coach doesn't know what I'm talking about. My coach says that I need to start working on this and that. I don't know what I should be doing here, because I'm going to hear it in the car about why I didn't shoot as many times as I should. I got the best shot on the team. When the coaches said, hey, let's just try moving the ball a little bit more, see if you can develop that skill as well. If we're not all on the same page, that's organization to coach to family, that's coach to player to parent. If we're not all understanding what we're trying to do, that's when problems creep in, and that's when we all kind of default to what's best to our for our kid. And if we don't have a goal in mind for the year, the default always turns to winning. We're in sports now. We're competitive. We want to win and lose. It's on the
Yeah.
scoreboard. It's everywhere. So if our coach says we're going to have a great year, we're going to work hard, we're going to learn some new skills. We're going to that okay, great. So my kid worked hard and my kid learned some skills. Why is my
Hmm.
kid not playing as much as this other kid?
Hmm.
That's not fair. This coach doesn't know what he's talking about.
Hmm.
Okay, well, we're working hard and we're doing this, but we're not winning. So we can't be having a good year if we're not winning. Well, is that a parent problem? Is
Hmm.
that a coach not explaining what this year is going to look like? Is it an organizational problem? As in, we don't have a philosophy. We just kind of gave that coach that team and let him do whatever he wanted with it. That's
Hmm.
part of what I'm trying to work with organizations on is to not just define your problems, maybe identify your problems beforehand, but hell, everybody's got problems. Like there's no perfect organization. There's no perfect way to doing this. This isn't
Hmm.
a here are the things you're doing wrong. This is a maybe we try it a different way and see if there's something that comes back good or bad and adjust accordingly.
Well, it is one of the reasons why Europe is absolutely kicking our ass
Hmm.
in all sports almost through the development piece because one, their best coaches coach the youth kids.
Yep.
Two, they don't play all the games all the time.
Hmm.
Three, it's just like checking people into the boards, which like they're not worried about winning it
Right.
so much at this level and this level and this level. And that's why they're getting better than us. I mean, just flat out, we have lost the plot in so many sports at so many
Hmm.
age groups, and it's not everybody, but just
Hmm.
think about that. As a parent, a coach running an organization, what is the plot for you?
Right.
Okay, you need to make money. I'm all for it.
Hmm.
Great. Now what?
Right.
Okay, are you trying to be an elite? And I think sometimes we just people try to straddle like, okay, we're rec, but like we want to be a little above rec. Okay, we're above rec, but we kind of want to be elite. And it's like you've lost the plot. What are you,
Yeah.
dude? Take what you are as a team, as a club, as a coach. Know your personnel, know where you're playing, and own that.
Hmm.
Figure out what that is and own it. Because in Europe, I tell you right now, they own. I can only speak for soccer because my kids have done some things over in England. They own the plot,
They
and
get it.
whether it's right or wrong, they're ready, and they here's the way it is, parents. Boom, 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 boom. Here's the curriculum. Here's this, and it's like, wow,
Yeah, it's
okay,
impressive. Two
great.
things on that. Hockey is no different for sure. One of the things that kind of takes us off guard in Canada again, we're extremely proud of our hockey teams and our hockey players and such. I had a coach in Sweden once tell me, and this was one of the first hockey factories we did. It's something that's always stuck with me, is that Canada puts 95% of their effort in 5% of their players. So they've got incredible players: Connor McDavid, Macklin Celebrini, Connor Bedard, keep naming them. But as a team, we've lost the last 3 straight years to Czechia in the World Juniors, which is an eighth of our population.
Wild,
We
wild.
lose in the Olympics. We've got teams that are, Latvia is beating us in the round robin games and stuff in the World Juniors. Somebody's got to say, well, what's happening? They're building great teams in those countries because one thing we do in Ontario is we do a poor job from hockey specific of explaining pathways. So the mindset that you end up with in Ontario is if you're not drafted into the Ontario Hockey League in your draft year, it's probably over. You're
Crazy.
not going to go, you're not going to
That's
make the next
crazy.
step. Or there's plenty of different avenues. But Jokerit in Finland is one of the programs we focused on, and that's one that's always sat with me. Some of the ways that they build their development model, I've tried to explain to friends of mine, coaches and things like that, and get laughed out of the rink. Like, what do you mean they don't focus on anything other than playing offense with the puck when they're 8 years old? When do they work on defense? Well, they work on defense at 11 or 12 years old. Well, what what do you mean? How are we the kid's got to know how to play defense at
Because they
9.
don't care
No,
about the
no,
wins.
they
They don't
don't.
care. They don't
Right.
care.
They don't, because when you talk to a European club, they're looking to build players for their first team, which most cases those kids when they're first starting that is 23, 20, 22, 22, 23 years old. So they've got a much longer runway to do it. They can take their time and be deliberate with it. They've got the coaches, like you said, that are plugged into particular age groups because they're really good at teaching what they teach. And there is a pathway to it because ultimately they're not looking at a first team player because they know a number of those kids don't make their first team. But if that kid had a great experience playing youth hockey at Jokerit and they have a son or daughter, I bet they're going to want them to go to Jokerit to play hockey because you had such a great experience. Maybe they own a business and they want to buy season tickets or sponsor the club. Maybe they want to come back and coach sometime. They've created an environment around what they are as an organization, as opposed to just chasing banners and draft picks and all of these things, because end of the day, like you said, they get it. They know what we're trying to do here because 90% of these kids that we're going to graduate from our program, we're putting back into our communities. So this isn't a hockey or a baseball or a soccer question. This is a society. Are you creating the type of people you want to invest back into your community as an adult who may own a business or maybe a manager and have people that work under them or whatever that looks like? Because the vast majority of kids that we're touching here are just going to be doing exactly that, as opposed to being launched into the major leagues or the NHL or whatever sport it is.
And a lot of this started a long time ago. Baseball in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other sports have drawn from what they've done. Because they're so disciplined, so much fundamentals, less games when they're younger, and they've had a ton of success. Man, this has been great. 'Cause, man, I love watching hockey, guys. I just do, and it's like one of those things where, like, man, I can't do that, but this is great. But give us your biggest takeaway that you want parents, coaches, organizations, and you do a lot of really good things to help a lot of people. And give yourself a plug in there, because I think I love your philosophy on things, and we need people to just be curious
Mm-hmm.
about surviving youth sports in a lot of different ways. So give us your biggest thing you want people to take away, from yourself in this episode, and how you're helping people.
Yeah, for sure. So I first started out with the coaches site, as the coachesite.com is where you'd find the features for Hockey Factories that we've written. And we're going to expand that. We're going to try to take that on in different sports, because a lot of the keys that we learn from Hockey Factories are not specific to hockey. I mean, well, I'll
Mhm.
get to where I think organizations can make the biggest gains the quickest in a minute, but that would be a source for where those articles are. I have a website of myself, mattdumouchelle.com. It's got a lot of the media stuff that I've done, podcasts, articles, presentations, things like that are on there too. I've also got a youth sports systems health guide that's been built out for organizations. There's 50 questions in there. How does your organization measure up? Again, this isn't a beauty contest. This isn't to say, hey, we got 50 out of 50. This is to
Right.
identify where we may have holes, right? So
Mhm.
maybe this isn't something we do well. Let's explore that together. So you can take the guide, go through the survey, reach out to me afterwards. We meet, we'll chat things through. Here, this is what we found. Okay, here's some opportunities. Why don't we try this? Why don't we look at this, right? One of the things I kind of start off with, and I mentioned a little bit earlier, is a pre-mortem within your organization. What are the 3 things that are likely to go wrong this year that can sideline your year? Is that registration is down, sponsorships down, parents are a problem, keeping
Mhm.
coaches is a problem. What are your 3 big problems this year, and what are you doing to fix those? Because one thing we get into a situation when you're sitting on a board or in a coaches meeting or something like that, we're all quick to come up with problems. There's always problems to be fixed, but what are we doing to fix them? And We can't do 11. We can't fix 12 different things.
Yeah.
But I try to go through this with some of the organizations that I work with. We'll kind of identify a problem in the most general terms, and then we'll ask why 5 times. We back it up 5 different times. So parents are out of control. Why are they out of control? Because of this. Why is that something we're experiencing? And by just going through that step, you'll get to a core problem that may not have anything to do with the parents being out of control themselves. It may be the coaches aren't very good communicators. So there's where our fix is. That's what we can work on. So there's some of that on the website. Again, it's mattdumouchelle.com. But the biggest thing organizations can do to help themselves, number one, is one of my favorite words to use when I do these presentations and talk, and simply alignment. We all have to be on the same page, pushing in the same direction, or nothing is going to get done. I've used comparisons of different things. My dad worked in the auto business in General Motors here in Windsor for 30-something years. There's about 2,000 people that touch a car that's being built before it goes from the start of the line to the end of the line and out into somebody's driveway. No, not one person has built that car. I'm really good at installing seats, or, you're really
Mhm.
good with the seat belts, or whatever it is. We all have our role that we have to look at to make sure that this car at the end of the day works right. If there's somebody along the line there that's not great at it, that's not doing their piece, that's whatever, the car's a lemon, we're putting people's lives at risk, right? And we're not trying to be as dramatic in that sense, but if we're not all on the same page with our philosophies, with what our expectations are with our coaches, how we communicate with our families, if we're not all in sync with that, it doesn't matter if Connor Bedard or Sidney Crosby or Aaron Judge are in your program. It's not going to operate as efficiently as it can, because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, the line that I'll use over and over again is we're just trying to create the best youth sports experience for every kid that's involved in your program. Not just the 5% of the elite, it's
Yeah.
every kid that puts his glove on the wrong hand, that, runs to third base when they get a hit instead of first. That kid is learning something and is going to take something from your coaches and your organizations in that experience, no matter what. He may never be a major leaguer, but the kid at 9 years old who's a superstar may not be either. So
Mhm.
we've got to be treating everybody the same way, so that at the end of the year, when we say we're creating an environment, a competitive environment, or whatever our mantra is as an organization, that we're using that to lead our decisions, as opposed to, hey, we won the U18
Right.
Summerside tournament, whatever we're coming up with, right?
No, I'm taking a couple things away from this episode. Figure the plot out,
Mm-hmm.
know your role in that plot, and go execute.
Yep.
Like the boom, boom, boom. Well, man, I really appreciate you coming on. I think this is great. I definitely would love to support you in any way, because I feel like, and again, philosophies aren't 100% aligned, but they're close. And I think
Mm-hmm.
stuff that I might believe differently than you, parents, you can figure out what works for you and what
Exactly.
doesn't. And
Yeah.
and that's why we're doing this. And we're trying to help people. So, man, I really appreciate you coming on, man. And this is I feel like every episode I'm on, I take something away from it. So really appreciate your time, man.
That's great. Well, thanks again for having me. I'm glad you got something. And if you're ever up in Canada again, you've got
Yeah.
a few tacks along the map there. Windsor's the closest one to the States you can find. Detroit's
I love
right
it.
over there, right out the window. So
Absolutely. No,
swing on by.
this is perfect, man. And like I said, you, me, all of us, we'll keep on surviving, brother.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining us on Surviving Youth Sports. Remember, the scoreboard may tell a different story, but the snacks, the car rides, and the questionable coaching decisions, that's where the real memories and the real survival skills come from. Please share, subscribe, and follow us.